Jess, welcome to the potty.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for jumping on, and so stoked to line this up. I think I sent you a DM and it might have got stuck in the request folder for a little bit. But I'm sure that's what happens when you're a professional athlete and you get lots of DMs from lots of people. So thanks for jumping on.
No, it's awesome, and my first live podcast actually.
Is
my
it?
Second one ever. So
Oh, true.
let's hope I'm okay.
No, you'll be sweet. Have you done like online ones before?
I've done one online and then just of course the usual interviews, but never in full depth. So
true, nice. Well, we will go beyond the surface. No, very cheesy dad joke. Well, Jess, for people who don't know you, do you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, I am Jess Kerr. Born and bred in Tawa and very proud of it. And I guess at the moment I'm a professional cricketer, and that's luckily my career at the moment. But grew up in Tawa, went through schooling there, and absolutely loved it. And studied teaching, did that for a couple of years.
Nice.
But quite a simple girl, really, like my home sort of space and family and whatnot. But
That's awesome. No, it's super cool. And I think like researching and looking into your story, Jess, you know, like you've been faced with so many obstacles to like get to where you are today. And I was looking through some like news articles and media articles, and I was reading with just some of the like different health conditions which have been thrown at you over the years. I was like, man, it's just so insane what different people can go through and where they can end up. But if we sort of start from the start, so your big focus growing up was running. Like, you did athletics, you loved running. What was like the first, like, I guess, positive, happy experience or memory that you had, especially around sport?
Running was definitely my number one love and what I drew to. My mum and dad are both very sporty beings, but that was never their number one sport. They were both cricketers, and mum was a netballer as well. So I don't actually know why I decided to get into it. Mum just put me in a club, and from there it was all go. But from a young age, I was always outside with either mum or dad throwing a ball, running around, and obviously lucky enough that my parents, put me into clubs and sports. And I guess my youngest memories of athletics and my happiest memories in a way is, being about 7-8 years old, going to Sunday into clubs with some of my best friends who I still talk to today.
Cool.
Giving everything a go, not just the running. At that age, it was the jumping and throwing. And just parking up there for the day in the summer, and just really happy memories.
Was that in Mana Athletics by chance?
Competed against people at Mana, but the club I joined first was Onslow, and then joined Olympic Harriers. But would travel all around Wellington and then around the country. So
that's so cool. I've just got my daughter into Mana Athletics, so
awesome.
She loves it. Just straight into there. It's so funny, like watching the long jump, like they're running, and because I've never done it before, they're like jumping on two legs and hopping over the long jump. It's just like such good comedy to go there and watch. And your family comes from, your sisters Amelia Kerr, who we've had on the show. Your dad was also a cricketer? And your mum, what sport did she play? Was she cricket as well?
She was cricket and netball for Wellington. So netball,
I feel like you guys are almost like the Barrett family in the rugby, but like the equivalent for cricket. Was there any pressure for like both you and your sister around, like, I'm kind of imagining your parents, like, you guys will be a professional athlete, you know what I mean?
No, not at all. I think growing up, the main thing our parents wanted us to do was to be happy. And of course they put us in sport, and as a response we enjoyed it. Mealy actually didn't show much interest. She says at a later age, it was about 6 or 7, but for me I was a toddler and loving it. But I think that's almost what kept me in cricket, is that I didn't have that pressure from my mum or dad saying you have to do this, when I know a lot of parents sort of are quite tough on their children, when for me it was, if you don't want to play cricket right now when I was at school, don't worry, you don't have to, just do what you enjoy and what makes you happy. And I'm very grateful for that.
That's awesome. I can imagine within your family as well, you guys must have had some of the most like epic backyard cricket battles of all time. I think Amelia said that's kind of where she first got introduced to cricket. I imagine it's probably the same for you.
I mean, me and Amelia are only each other's siblings, but we've got a bunch of cousins, and Both our mum and dad have lots of siblings, so our uncle in particular used to have a house, and he, built this scoreboard with, putting names on and names of honour and whatnot. So it was every year Christmas Eve we'd have this backyard battle, kids versus adults, and the adults would not go lightly on the kids. So we really had to push hard to get the win.
Yeah. Did you guys ever win? Or?
Yeah, we did, from memory, but again, it was never a given.
Yeah, a bit of sledging going on as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Your parents, I won't feed you tonight if you don't hit a 6. So yeah, I guess you were really into running, doing athletics. Was that something growing up that you wanted to potentially turn into like a career?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I grew up probably watching the Olympics, and that was a massive dream. And also just I had a coach from a young age, and my best friends did it, and I probably took it quite seriously from a young age. I'm looking back, I don't know if it was too seriously or not, but I did love it. It was all me, not my parents. But yeah, for sure, I wanted to represent New Zealand, and I wanted to achieve the highest level possible.
That's awesome, and I definitely see this as a parent who spectates over kids with doing athletics and stuff. Like, you can see those kids who are just like athletes, you know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, I won't go into my daughter, but like she absolutely gives it her best and does an awesome job, and she's a good little runner. But you can see those kids who just take it really serious, and you're like, far out, you've got something special there. Yeah.
It's also the natural talent too. As a kid, some are double the size of others, and the natural talent gets them so far. But
100%,
it's those that sort of persist when they get older, past high school and puberty kicks in and whatnot. It sort of levels out of it, but for sure in athletics, some natural talent gets you far as well.
Totally. And I think as a child, like, social currency is how fast you can run. Like, if you're the fastest runner, you're the most popular kid at the school. What was that kind of the same for you?
Yeah, I was probably known as like the running girl. I paved the streets of Tawa, and I think some parents were like, who is this girl? Like, who are these parents letting this girl run around Tawa on her own? And,
yeah, true.
But I was definitely known as the runner girl. And, when I was younger, I used to beat the boys and probably got seen as a bit of a try hard, but it was just a way of expressing myself, and I loved it, and I was doing it for me, not to show off. And obviously in the weekends I'd go off and compete with runners. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't it so backwards how if someone's good at something, like you're a good runner, you're beating the boys. In New Zealand, we have that mentality of like calling someone a try-hard.
Yeah.
Like, when you really think back on that as like an adult now, you're like, that is such a backwards way of like encouraging people who are good at stuff to keep doing what they're doing. Yeah,
definitely.
Because if you're a good runner, I remember like people who are good at like football play that at lunch. If you score a goal, they're like, oh, try hard. You're trying too hard. Like, you're just trying to be cool. And it's like, what? I just wonder if that's the same in other cultures. I don't know.
Yeah, and the fine line of you want to teach your kids to be confident and that sort of gets killed a bit as you get older, but then when kids are young and a bit arrogant and whatnot, you sort of shut that down. So it's finding the right balance, I guess.
Definitely. So true. And so when did your sort of like running journey come to an end? Because that came to an end with, was it through like a medical condition that you had around your shins?
Yeah. Injuries sort of ruled me out. So I was about 16, just rolled my ankle in a race, thought it would be 2 to 3 weeks, but as I sort of came back from that, I went from being able to run 90 minutes on a Sunday with ease to really battling to run 5 minutes without stopping and being in pain. So it was a long sort of 2-year journey of figuring out what is this, trying to push through, and as it was my passion and love, and my best friends did it, like I said. But yeah, I got diagnosed with compartment syndrome. Absolutely grueling test to get that diagnosis. It's about 24 needles in the leg. And in between those needles, you sort of have to jump around and stir up your calves. But I only just met the margin for that. But they sort of said, you've had all these issues for a couple of years. Well, we're happy to operate. So they did. That had a little bit of success, but again, not much. And then I ended up getting diagnosed with something else called popliteal artery entrapment syndrome, which sounds...
It's a word and a half.
It's a word and a half, but essentially it meant an easier fix in going to Australia and getting Botox in my legs.
Botox in your legs?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So got that once or twice, but by that point it had been 3 to 4 years. By then I'd also been picked in the Wellington Blaze and started loving that. So it was sort of like the path had closed, but obviously cricket, there's still some fitness involved. So it was just getting to a level where I could, go for a 30-minute run without being in agony and being able to bowl and whatnot. But even now, if I still wanted to run every single day, I would definitely battle. But at least that Botox sort of has helped to an extent.
Yeah, that's super interesting. What does the Botox do to help that part of your leg?
Yeah, so essentially with the artery entrapment, it's like your valves sort of stop flowing blood down your leg. Again, I'm not a good medical person or scientist, but
neither am I, don't worry.
But it stops the blood flow, which causes the sensation of pain when running and exercising, and it's also why I wasn't sore at rest, because I would go for a run, be sore, and then walk normally. It's like not an injury where you're limping for days on end. So it was quite a tricky one. But the Botox goes into the arteries and releases that, so the blood can flow through down your calves essentially.
Wow. And you can run like Forrest Gump basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow, that's that's super interesting. And so were you trialing, like, how did the first club, what was the club called again? Was it Blaze?
Wellington Blaze.
Yeah, Wellington
cricket,
Blaze. How did they first, I guess, get in touch with you and discover who you were to be signed to the team?
Yeah, it was quite crazy, and so grateful how it happened. But yeah, like I sort of touched on, I didn't love cricket at school. It was always running, and I did it on the side because obviously, Amelia played, and my dad and mum loved it, and my cousins did it. But I sort of was a part-timer. Yeah. Indoor cricket really kept me in the sport, as it was short and sharp, and I liked that. I don't have the greatest patience at times, so spending a whole day playing cricket didn't appeal to me as a young teen. I played for school, so that was a bit of time out of school, which I liked, on a Thursday, and I think I bowled obviously really well at a school game, and then I went on a website to see a little article on Amelia, as she had been playing for the Blaze at quite a young age, just to see what they wrote about her and the new team, as I'd played with some of them at school. And then all of a sudden I saw my name on the squad list of a wider training squad.
Crazy.
Yeah.
There's the car. For those listening, we have a very loud car blasting external music outside. But just the joys of where this podcast is situated. Anyway, going back to the selection. So they must have been at that game and saw you bowl. It seems crazy they wouldn't tell you beforehand. Yeah. Just like, boom, you're in the squad.
Yeah, my dad worked for Cricket Wellington at the time. He wasn't a coach or anything, but I rang him. I'm like, is this did you know about this? He's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, what the heck? It was not a team, but it was a widest training squad. And back then there was a lot of White Ferns, which is the New Zealand team, in that training squad. So from there, I just was then training twice a week in my last year of school with a lot of White Ferns, with Amelia, of course.
Wow.
And from there, I just the love for the game grew. I didn't play that summer, but the sort of desire to play grew from there. And I was sort of like, next summer I want to be playing and on the park and playing cricket, taking it seriously, especially now that I can't run.
Yeah, there's the perfect timing where one door closes a chapter on your potential running career, but then opens up this total new opportunity with cricket. The timing almost seems a bit too perfect.
Yes, yeah. I'm a big quote girl, and it's a real cheesy one, but sort of everything happens for a reason. And I think if I didn't have that calf injury, I would still be running or trying to fulfill my dreams of going to the Olympics and whatnot. But I mean, from a kid, I was a naturally better cricketer, so it's worked out for a reason somehow.
Yeah. And what's that relationship like with you and Amelia? It must be amazing to be able to play in the same team and like just starting to like train with your younger sister? Is that like there must be like a really special relationship for you guys?
Yeah, it's really special. And again, she probably almost inspired me to get back into the sport too. From about 10, that was her main sport, and by 13, 14, she was in the Blaze, and 16, she was in the White Ferns. So I got to watch her on weekends, and I got to go to the UK and watch her play in her first World Cup, and that was sort of my first sense of, okay, this is becoming a profession that, you know, if you work hard and you can sort of make a living out of this. So in a way, she was sort of like my older sister in that time, even though I'm the older one, but it sort of made me see what there is out there and want to work hard. She's got a great work ethic, but it's really special to be able to do it alongside her.
That's super cool, eh? And it's probably something which only a very small percentage of people actually get to experience, is like playing professional sport with your sibling. Like, if you think about it, it takes such a small percentile of an individual to make it to an elite profession across any discipline of sport, but then to also share that moment with your brother or your sister is like an even smaller fraction of the population that have experienced that. So yeah, it must just be such a cool feeling going out there representing your country and also being with your with your little sister.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very lucky and grateful.
Yeah. So you get into the training camp with a Blaze in year 13, what are the steps in like the years sort of following? Like, can you do full-time cricket? Because I know you also like picked up a bit of study during that time as well.
Yeah, so I guess my life continued as normal. I went to school and just it became sort of night trainings, and at that point for domestic cricket, it still sort of is at the moment. It wasn't seen as professional. You sort of trained at night. Everyone had a full-time job or was at school or studying, and then you would play in the weekends. So it used to be you'd play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, three games in a row, which you're not allowed to do now. Bodies are too precious and whatnot. Which is a good thing. But so it didn't affect school. I was still thinking I need to study and get a job and whatnot, and I think they had a few White Ferns contracts at that point, I believe, but again, you still had some that worked part-time jobs as the income wasn't enough. So you sort of still, it was a passion in a way for those domestic girls, and a busy summer schedule. Yeah.
So were you still studying, and then you became a teacher? So were you still juggling all of those like training commitments and games on top of like full-time university? Yeah.
So I'm grateful, actually. I managed to do full-time university 4 years before I made the White Ferns, and the demand got quite high. But got through that, and then it was just all I ever knew with running too. I mean, I was training after school every day, and I never really had afternoons during primary school or intermediate where I had nothing on, or weekends were always full. That was sort of just how our family rolled. So it was sort of the same just throughout university and everything like that. So just the summer was busy while people sort of go away and have their holidays over New Year's and whatnot. You're often playing, but it's what I enjoy.
Man, it is. Have you seen a shift at the moment with especially women's sport, like the popularity of women's sport? I'd love to hear your perspective just on maybe how things have changed over the last few years.
Oh yeah, it's incredible how the growth of the game really in cricket and also other sports too. I think having those home World Cups, unfortunately our cricket one was during COVID, but we got 20% capacity, I think we were allowed, but we heard stories from people watching at home, and the support we did have was incredible. And then you saw the Rugby World Cup with the women. It was amazing. Yeah, like I wanted to be a black fern. I was like, why am I playing cricket? I want to be a black fern.
I wanted to be a black fern as well.
Exactly. So I'm sure that inspired so many young girls. And then also the Football World Cup was. I went to some of those games. So it's again like you can't be what you don't see, and I think it's just the exposure that's grown. I even look at the Wellington Blaze. Since the Super Smash, we've been successful for a number of years, and as a result of that, the public have supported us, and my favourite time of year playing for Wellington, playing at the Basin Reserve, and the Wellington crowd is just so fantastic with getting behind the Wellington Blaze, women's cricket team. I bet you 10 years ago they wouldn't even consider coming.
Hard out. And from like a like professional standpoint as well, has there been like increases within like contracts and like there's more popularity that you can actually treat this more of like a job because it pays better?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I studied full time, and then I made the White Ferns sort of from a breakout summer, and that was the year I was starting my first year teaching. Then middle of that year I got my first White Ferns contract, and that was sort of essentially full time. Not some girls still work part time, but obviously teaching, you sort of have to be at school. You can't work from home teaching, unfortunately. Or I did for a little bit with COVID, but my boss was so supportive with that. So for 2 years I taught, and then now that's what 3 years later, I'm full cricket, and so are most of the girls.
That's awesome. So full time.
Yeah, and even domestically now we're getting match payments for a couple of years. We'd play in the Super Smash comp, which is our T20 competition, and we'd play the game before the boys. We wouldn't get a match fee. The boys play the exact same game, and they would get a match fee.
So backwards,
so it's awesome now that the girls are getting match payments for that, especially over the summer periods. We do love it, but you still are sacrificing a bit, I guess, in a way. But
and did you think, like, when you're going to university and then going into teaching, like, was this always just like a bit of a dream for you to like be able to one day play professional cricket for the White Ferns, or did you like always kind of think in your back pocket that you could make that a reality?
Yeah, I guess by the point I became a teacher, I was set in the Wellington Blaze team and enjoying that, and I thought all my family are teachers too, but I thought that's a great career to have, the school holidays, then I can play cricket in the summer. I always dreamed to play for the White Ferns, but when it happened I didn't think it would be that soon. It was probably a good thing in a way. You're not stressing about every performance and how you played, but it was once I decided I want to stick with cricket and played a few seasons, that was definitely a goal, but it definitely came sooner than what I had planned or thought it would.
And like how, because I guess throughout your journey, like the really sort of common theme is the amount of like health battles that you've been faced with. Like how have like the resilience of overcoming some of them, what have you learned throughout that entire process? Because I feel like for a lot of people who would be in the same shoes as you, you know what I mean? It could just be too much for them. And so I'd just love to understand how you got through some of those times, especially as like a type 1 diabetic as well. So I'd also love, just, it's like heaps of questions in one, but yeah, what have you learned through, I guess, those health barriers, and then how are you currently like managing them today? Yeah,
well, I guess in a weird way, I'm really grateful that I got diabetes and also Bells-Palsy and some of those health issues at a young age as a kid. And so, when people sort of ask who your role models are or who you looked up to, I did have those people, but I sometimes almost look back to younger Jess and think, nice. Shit, kids are so resilient, more than you think. Hell, and sometimes I look back to my younger self and think I was a tough kid because I just wanted to play sport and do what I love. Sometimes now it's harder to deal with, setbacks and things like that, because I guess there's more on the line than just being a kid and growing up. So I'm grateful that I was young when I got it and sort of didn't have to change my lifestyle too much as you would as an adult. I think that would be a harder jump, I guess, especially through your teenage years and whatnot. I sort of knew no different. I had a great support network, which again was so grateful, and also a medical support team too. My first question after all those diagnoses, I was like, can I play sport? And that was my first question. I don't care if I have to inject myself 7 times a day, just tell me I can run again. At that point I was 13. So they said, yep, you can run again. You're going to have some time off and get healthy again. But that was sort of, once I heard that, I'm like, right, okay, that's my goal. I'm gonna be healthy so I can do what I love. And in a way, I think that's with diabetes, because you can't have a day off and you can't rest at all. That almost helps you as an athlete too. Like I need to almost think and make more decisions probably than your average human, which helps me as an athlete as well, because you're having to think about what am I eating, or if I don't do this I could go low and then I'm going to feel like crap. So you sort of face consequences, I guess, earlier than maybe a normal human being would.
Totally.
But
and for those who don't know, can you just talk to, I guess, like what is it like today to be living with type 1 diabetes? Like what sort of steps do you have to take at the moment to ensure like your blood sugars are all right? Like how do you manage that health condition?
Yeah, so type 1 diabetes is essentially your pancreas doesn't produce insulin, which is, you need it to live, essentially. So I have to be my own pancreas in a way, and that's either by injecting or through an insulin pump. So when I injected for a year, that was about 6 to 7 injections a day.
All right, it's a lot, eh?
A lot, yeah. As for a young kid, I feel so sorry for parents with little babies, where they're the one having to, essentially do the controlling for their kid. So the technology has improved so much since I got it when I was 13. I'm 26 now, so I've got a insulin pump, I've got a sensor on my arm, unfortunately not funded, so I'm grateful I can have that, and that makes my life so much easier. But
what does that do, the sensor?
The sensor connects to my pump, and it tells me my levels without having to finger prick. So I can essentially look down at my pump and I'll know my level at any given time.
Oh, that's good.
When I was about, throughout school, I would have to go and get my little bag out, prick my finger, get some blood out, to find out my level. And obviously, it's not going away. You've got it forever. So doing that 5 to 6 times a day, you're going to start getting a bit sick of it. And I did at 18.
Your poor finger as well.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I used to have marks and things like that. So, the sensor is amazing in that. I really hope it gets funded one day. But yeah, that has been a massive lifesaver. So essentially I'm checking my levels and I have to carbohydrate count, just so I know how much insulin to give myself. I eat whatever I want. I don't want to restrict myself too much in that sense. It's tough enough having diabetes. You don't want to live like a robot.
Yeah, 100%.
You still want to be happy and whatnot. You need to know what you're eating so you can give yourself enough insulin and whatnot, and then try and keep your levels essentially between 4 and 8 is the good range.
Is that the sweet spot?
The sweet spot, yeah.
And does that affect like performance at all in any way as well? Yeah,
it can. If I go low, which is below 4, I probably am off the field. I can't function properly. You get the shakes and feel dizzy and weak, and just need about 10-15 minutes to just get your levels back up. And luckily that means you can have a bit of sugar, but sometimes you don't feel like it when you're feeling really, really crap and low. So that has an immediate effect if I'm low. So when I'm playing cricket, I'm trying to avoid going low, and I don't mind if I run a little bit higher. But if I am constantly high, my blood sugar, it's sort of the symptoms you get before being diagnosed, where you'll have to pee lots, you'll start losing weight, you get kidney damage, you can lose your vision, sort of longer term, effects, your bone health and whatnot. So it's try and stay in those levels as much as possible, but obviously you don't have a pancreas giving you a perfect amount like yours would, so you're essentially doing your own, trying to guess what you eat, how different foods react. So it can be a bit of a juggling act, but
far out. There's definitely a lot to it, eh? And how did you first discover that you had diabetes? Were you 13 when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, I was 13. I was very late to be diagnosed, in the fact I probably had it for over a year or two. Probably was disguised because I was running so much. I drank tons of water because I was running. I was running, so I was obviously little. But I I was about 33 kgs when I was diagnosed at 13 years old, which is
true. That's so little, eh?
tiny.
Yeah.
I was peeing about 5 times in the night. Like water was like a drug, like you just needed it. It wasn't a want, it was a need. Those were the main ones, and then I just started getting so tired at school. And obviously I was keeping up my running and going to school, and it got to a point where I just wanted to sleep in. And I said to Mum, I've got a sore ear. I think I just made it up in my head.
True, your body was just shot.
And because I wasn't actually okay, usually Mum's a bit like, toughen up, you're all right, sort of thing. But she took me to the doctors, and, Tawa's a small community, and we knew the nurse. And she said, your ear's totally fine, but you don't look all right. You look quite unwell. And she took my blood sugar. It was about 28, 29. And she said, you're a type 1 diabetic. You're going to have to cancel your week. And I was sent straight to Wellington Hospital.
Damn, that's crazy, eh? Oh, it's so amazing we like live in a day and age where, something like that is so manageable.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't know how that was treated 50 or 60 years ago, but it seems like with technology, you can have type 1 diabetes, and if you stay on top of it, you can still, play professional sport at like the most elite level. So it's real interesting like that. What throughout all your health battles, what has been like your biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome, and how did you do it?
That's a good question. I guess it's just the constant thinking as well as being an athlete. Obviously the demand with what I do at the moment physically is quite high for everyone in our team. So it involves two to 4 trainings a day. You might be running, biking, gymming, then your cricket skills. So it's, I guess, like I said, forward thinking, and I can't just go and do that. I need to think about my levels in between. Do I have enough lollies on hand? Is my insulin going to go and work properly? And you can't predict how your levels will react on any given day. I think that's the hard thing. You can prepare well, but it can throw a curveball at any minute. So it's just, in a way, it prepares you well for being an athlete. But
true.
I guess it's just the extra decisions and things you have to make on top of being an athlete. But like you said, you can still do it. It's just you might have to do a little bit more behind the scenes just to get your health right. But and like that's the physical side of things, but I guess on the other hand, there's like the whole mental side of things as well, and like to have the mental grit and resilience to bounce back after being diagnosed with diabetes. How have you got through some of the more like mental challenges that are associated with different medical conditions? Yeah, again, I think the age with diabetes in particular was a good thing, and again, sport was my outlet, so I didn't care as long as I could do sport. So I felt grateful that it was that and not something else, and that's sort of how our family has looked at things, sort of being grateful for what you have. So not that I'm like, I've got diabetes, but there are still some positives to it as well. But
lollies.
Lollies, exactly.
Pascal sponsorship, surely.
Yeah, I can pretend when I'm eating lollies and I'm not low, I'll just say I'm low and it's acceptable.
Exactly. Hard out. Lollies are always acceptable.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you do at the moment to like better support your mental health?
I think it's just like I'm really close with my family, so it's just enjoying time at home. I don't like thinking too far ahead. I think that's almost a diabetes mindset too.
True, and always planning.
Yeah, and also the thought of having it forever can probably seem quite scary. When if it's sort of just one day at a time, it's doable and achievable. And people might say, oh, there's a cure coming or this and that. It's like, okay, all good, but I don't want to live thinking that, which might be negative. But if you take it one day at a time, it forever doesn't seem as scary. And I can still do what I love, playing sport. I can still eat. I can eat what I want. I can do this and that. It's just, again, I'm probably making some more decisions, or I might end up going high or low because of it. But
it's all perspective, eh?
Exactly.
It's all perspective. And there's I've got like a close family friend who's been like diagnosed with one of like the rarest cancers in the world, and he's like a 16-year-old boy, and it's just bloody heartbreaking, because it's incurable. Surgeons wouldn't operate on him, and now he's got to the point where like the tumors growing in his stomach are just so massive. You can see it visibly on him. He's on round the clock sort of morphine, and it's just all happened so fast.
Yeah.
And I think seeing him recently and like the updates that get put on Facebook and stuff, I'm like, man, you got to be so grateful and so thankful for like what you've got. You know what I mean? Because so many people have it so much worse. And I always like to think of that whenever I'm like going on a run, or if I'm at the gym, and it's just like really sitting in that moment and appreciating like that I am able to move my body.
Yeah.
I'm able to like live, touch wood, and be healthy. You know what I mean? Because it's all perspectives. You got to ground yourself. Yeah. So true. What has been some of your like biggest highlights across your cricket career so far, Jess?
Yeah, I guess like I said before, I love playing for the Wellington Blaze, and we've been quite a successful team. So we've won a few national titles and with the Super Smash, and that's always a really, really happy memory. Doing that, playing at home in Wellington with the crowd, that's always awesome. And probably one season in particular we won unbeaten, and it was the season I played really well, which essentially made me a White Fern. So
it's epic. I'm
always grateful for that, because it was cricket at Wellington that allowed me to play, and I sort of grew up not in the system as a kid, but I did have coaches and trained for a few years, and then to have that and be rewarded with playing for the national side was really special. And then I guess your debut for New Zealand, and going to World Cups, I don't think you can ever take it for granted, because again, you never know when it could be taken away. But I think it's also a pinch me moment that this is my job. It doesn't feel like a job, but I'm traveling the world doing what I love with my sister, with my friends, and absolutely loving it.
That's so cool. Literally living out your dream, eh?
Yeah.
Within the realm of cricket, like playing in a World Cup is huge. Did you get to play in the Olympics as well?
So the girls played in the Commonwealth Games. I actually broke my toe another time, and I missed a tour actually. But I had an injury, so I found that really tough actually, because obviously my childhood self really grew up watching the Olympics and Commonwealth Games.
100%.
So I was pulled out of that quite late due to an injury. And was picked in the team and everything. But that it was really special, because the girls won bronze there, and I was in the UK about to play in another tournament. I just wasn't quite ready then, but it's named in the Olympics now. And
when's the next Olympics? It's every 4 years. Can't even remember when the last one was.
Was it meant to be 2020, but then it was COVID 2021.
So 25 maybe.
Yeah,
true.
Well, this year or next year.
Far out. What do you think? I'm always really interested from different professional athletes. Like, I feel like a lot of people, when you think of a professional sportsman or woman, you think like, I think you have a different perception on what a life looks like as a professional athlete. So I'd love to hear from you, like, what are some of the misconceptions that people might not understand about being a professional athlete?
Yeah, I guess for one, I think sometimes people think you've got more free time than you actually do when you are at home. But there's a lot of when you're a professional athlete, you obviously see people on TV and playing sport, but you don't see the work that goes behind the scenes. So when I'm at home, I might not be playing games, but I'm training, and I think it's also that with cricket, there's so many skills involved in the sport. I mean, when I was running, you just run. You do maybe 1 or 2 gym sessions, but that's it. When cricket, I'm a bowler, but I also might have to bat, and I want to develop my batting. And then there's fielding; everyone has to field, but then you want to be strong and fit, and there's all that to it. And then also like the mental skills side and the food, nutrition. So I think it's all the pillars that are involved with with being an athlete in that sense. And I guess also it's not as glamorous as it seems. Like I said, I absolutely love it, but you see what's on TV and people running out on the field and living their dream, but there's also 3 or 4 people on the bench that aren't playing and are absolutely gutted, and I've been that person as well. Or like I said, I missed out on the Commonwealth Games. Was a huge low for me. So I think you have extreme highs and quite big lows compared to like my job as a teacher. It was pretty level. Obviously I love the job I'm in, and you take the lows for the highs, but I guess it's not as glamorous as people might think it is, or as easy as people might think it is.
I think you nailed it there, because when you're watching people on TV, whether it's like Super Rugby, cricket or football, you do associate their job as like it is something which is very glamorous and oh cool, that would be nice, but I don't think people really understand like the real hard work that goes into being the best at something. Like I remember when we had TJ Petinara on the podcast, he was saying that even on the like when he wanted to become an All Black, he would train when the All Blacks were playing, because for him that was like an edge that he would have, even though they were still playing rugby at that time. They wouldn't be, running 10 kilometers, or they wouldn't be in the gym. So he saw that as like a leg up. And there's just such a different, I think, mindset for those who are in the like elite of their field, and how they sort of go about their work and their work ethic.
Yeah.
Has there been any learnings that you've had through any individuals along the way who just have like a crazy work ethic that you've, got something from?
Yeah, I guess Amelia is a great example of that. And again, I saw that before I decided I wanted to be a cricketer. She was 10 years old and she was training lots, but she was training with a purpose. She was with my dad. He was pretending to be, a bowler, and you need this amount of runs and X amount of overs, and sort of putting that pressure on her from a young age. Like it's a World Cup final, and
true.
And that's what she wanted to do, but she was training with a purpose from a young age, and now she goes out and gets extra hits than what's available for her. I mean, we're lucky our dad loves throwing balls to us, and
does he still do that?
Yeah, he does. His shoulder's a bit rugged now, but and she's got other people that obviously love throwing to her and things like that, but she's always one for doing the little extras. And I guess it's a fine balance of you don't want to overtrain and do too much, but she's one of the best in the world. And I think Susie Bates, who's in the White Ferns as well, she's got an incredible work ethic too, and she's just a great person. And I think the mix of those two, it's just she's been a great role model as well for a lot of our teammates.
Yeah, that's awesome, eh? And with your nutrition, do they like give you nutrition plans? Like you have to be pretty dialed across all of the year?
That's probably another misconception too. With you get sort of, this is what's suggested, and have X amount of, I don't know, like carbs or whatnot on a game day, but people probably think you shouldn't eat this and that, but it's almost you need to eat more than what you think.
Because you're burning so many calories and stuff.
And while cricket, you're not running 24/7, it's a long game, so it's sort of that mind focus and having that energy to, 50 over cricket is about 6 hours,
Crazy,
so
eh?
if you're a batter and bowler, you need to be fueling yourself and eating a lot, and a lot of carbohydrates and things like that. So we've just got a nutritionist on board, so that will be really helpful. But again, if we want to treat ourselves, we can. Just because we're athletes doesn't mean we can't.
Totally. Got to live a little way.
Exactly.
Within the realm of women's cricket as well, is there a bit of sledging that goes on? Do you guys give each other shit?
I don't think as bad as the men's game. Probably a few chirps here and there. We often chirp to each other in the net sometimes, but not again probably what people would think, but and again I think the men's game is a lot worse. I think we're just too
especially
nice.
the Aussies, eh?
Oh,
you hear them on the camera,
hear that all
you're
the
like,
time.
Oh, mate. Has there been any like sledging which you've heard, like any like bad situations that have sort of popped up of different people sort of talking shit?
No, I've had really good sort of situations really. So no one's, and I've played in Australia and in the UK as well, and they're all good people really, and as much as the rivalry we have with Australia, they actually do want us to do well, and I think they are the best in the world and have been for years. But no, I'm lucky in that sense. Maybe I'll get sledged next game. Who knows?
Maybe. I was about to say, I can't really imagine you like just absolutely abusing someone on the on the cricket field. So that's probably a good thing. Have you played in India before?
No, I haven't. We're scheduled to go this year.
Awesome.
Which will be amazing. It's like a religion over there. Cricket.
Crazy, right?
Amelia's obviously gone with the WPL, and my dad went over too, and they just came back beaming. Absolutely loved it. So they were looked after very well.
It is. I was talking to somebody the other day, and like I feel like with Amelia, like she's becoming like a bit more of like a household name in New Zealand, but she's probably hit like a really amazing sweet spot where, overseas in India, she's an absolute superstar. Like she would be. It's even you look at me followers she's got on Instagram. It's wild. And then in New Zealand, I feel like most people, if they don't follow cricket, probably wouldn't really recognize her on the street or anything.
Yeah.
So she's kind of got like a really good level of fame without having the fame in New Zealand to that same degree, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I remember someone saying like Virat Kohli, who I'm sure most people have heard of, but he's an Indian cricketer. He could not leave his house in India. So he loves coming to New Zealand to tour because sometimes people don't recognise him. I'm sure the cricket fans would be starstruck and would, he'd still get pulled over. He's, an incredible cricketer, but a lot of people wouldn't know a thing about cricket. He'd probably get by in New Zealand and Australia. And
totally.
Yeah.
Probably the same with like golf as well. Yeah. Like I think that cricketer you just mentioned, is he the one that's got more followers than LeBron James? I think he does. Yeah. That is just like, I guess, living in like a Western country. Yeah. You think
it's like the royal family almost.
Totally. Like you think who's more popular? Like name a bigger sportsman or sports figure than LeBron James? And then there's like it's crazy. It's such a huge sport.
Yeah.
When you go over there in India, what do you think the crowds would be in terms of size?
They're definitely growing. I think Australia were just there and they had quite a big crowd. Again, I couldn't tell you numbers, but again, the growth of the women's game from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that they're starting to sell out crowds now too, which is incredible because a lot of those Indian cricketers, they didn't see that as a career growing up either, and some had to pretend they were, I think one cut their hair to pretend they were a boy when they were younger.
Really? Yeah. Well, to try and make it in professional like men's cricket.
Not professional, but just to play as a kid in a team. Yeah.
Far out. Yeah, that is a crazy story. Yeah, it's super interesting. It's definitely growing a lot. And for you, for you and your career, like what are the next steps that you sort of want to unlock and achieve? Do you want to make it to the Women's Premier League over in India? Is that like a goal?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'm a bit new but not new in my career compared to Mealy. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to play in the Big Bash, and I've absolutely loved that, and that's been a real highlight of my cricketing career as well. I was a wild card in the UK, so that meant I didn't play, but I was sort of an injury replacement. So again, that was another like, wow, I'm not just getting picked for New Zealand, but like I'm getting picked as an international player, and that was sort of
that's huge.
But yeah, I guess the next step is my dream is to win a World Cup for New Zealand, and also to be a consistent and great New Zealand player who plays for a number of years and does well for the team. And then from there, I guess that goes into the WPL and playing in the Big Bash and the leagues and things like that. But ultimately, I want to play the best I can for my country and do that for a number of years consistently and help my team win games of cricket, I guess.
Yeah, super cool. Within I guess across your career so far, and just life in general, have you had any like really integral like mentors who have helped you get to where you are today?
My dad is probably my biggest one in terms of cricket. I mean, my family in general I'm close with, but my dad, it's really cute. After every game when we're away overseas, I sort of live for a message from my dad, and it's just a review of the game, whether it's good or bad. It's honest, but it's constructive, and it's always got something nice to it too. And I really value his opinion. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, my dad is just commenting on my game and he's so annoying. But I want that message because he's just been, a great influence in my life with my cricket. And like I said, never push me to do anything and just wants me to be happy and be a good person, really. So he sort of keeps me grounded and not ride the highs or lows too much and look towards the next game. But he'd do anything for me in terms of my cricket, and I don't know, my family would too, but he's been a big influence with my cricket.
He sounds like a legend. What's his name?
Robbie.
Shout out Robbie. Shout out Robbie. You've done a bloody good job, mate. You've done really good. Have you had any like haters? I think this is a really interesting question to ask people who are professional athletes. Have you had like a hater before?
Oh, you get people online that comment stuff, but to be honest, I don't read it, and it's often fans from India or older people who probably don't play cricket or don't get the game, and you just laugh really. But no, I've never really had too many haters, and sort of how I've been brought up is I've got my circle of people who I know love me, and that's who I'm gonna put time into and invest in. So again, it's not looking at the outside noise too much, and that's also when you're going really well too. I mean, the media can hype you up big time, and when you're not, they sort of can turn on you too. So I think it's just who are your people, who are the ones you need to listen to and keep you grounded, whether that's coaches or family or friends, and staying with that. But there's always comments online for sure. So
your process is just basically block them out, which I think is probably the smartest thing you can do.
Don't even read it really. It's no point really.
Yeah, I think I got my first hater, quote unquote hater, on following the episode we did with Amelia Kerr, and I think it was somebody commenting on the YouTube video and was like having a go, saying that like because I use swear words that it could have triggered Amelia to have like some mental health episode. I was just like, what the hell? But it's so funny with negative comments and quote unquote haters. You can get 1,000,001 positive messages from different individuals, and then there's that one that stands out, and for whatever reason it makes you stop and like maybe something I probably need to take a leaf out of your book is really just taking it with a grain of salt, or not even taking it in at all, because who are these people behind screens. But it must be super tough, especially for some of those like a lot more players around the world who have that exposure, and just the amount of abuse they get from fans. It's just horrible. You see some terrible comments.
And it can tear people apart too, which is really sad. I mean, me and Amelia are so lucky, we've got a great family base, but if you don't have that, then who's going to tell you to ignore those things or not worry about it? So
100%. And what's up with Tawa and producing like so many amazing cricket players? Like how many? Is there something like, what is going on there? Like how many people from Tawa are in the New Zealand team?
At the moment we've got four contracted, which is and the fun fact is that we've all at different times lived on the same street in Tawa.
That is
which
crazy.
Is wild. So it's pretty cool. Again, maybe a little shout out to my dad Robbie, as he coached me at school when I was a kid. He coached Mealy, and he was actually Sophie Devine's first coach for the Blaze too. He picked her when she was about 14 years old. So
true.
Obviously it's not my dad, but
there's a common theme.
You obviously need good coaches and people around, and I guess it's been a really strong front in the female game, that we've had lots of girls coming through, and we've got one or two more in the Wellington Blaze team too. So almost half the team is from Tawa who are playing for Wellington at the moment. So it's pretty special.
That is crazy. There's an amazing book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. Don't know if you've read that before.
No.
And he looks into investigating like who are the outliers in society, like who are the individuals that have succeeded at such a high level. So talking about Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, like the Beatles, and he looks into how they got to where they are today. And it's not just like a portion of it is luck, but there's also different circumstances in these individuals' lives which has got them to where they are, and how and why they're so successful. Like I think Bill Gates, he had access to like one of the first computers in the world because his mum like worked at a university. So like he could like sort of learn how to code and stuff from a really young age. Same with like the Beatles. I think they got to like perform over in Europe, like do over 20 shows a week for like 3 years. So they got so good and they went over to the UK. But I'd love to understand, there must be like a common thread between all of you guys in Tawa, which has got you, like there must be something different, which is not happening elsewhere. Maybe it is your dad, maybe it's Robbie, but there would 100% be some sort of secret formula. It would be, real interesting to unpack that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know too, but yeah, I guess part of it's the cricket club, North
true.
City and Tawa, and a lot of us played with boys as well. So yeah, I guess playing at that tough sort of competition, because there wasn't really girls cricket teams there, and now there are, and it's grown, and even the school competitions at intermediate and college, and it's just the people you play with as well. But yeah, I don't know, but I guess it's a community, Tawa too, so
hard out.
I'm proud to be from there.
That's super cool. Awesome. Well, we'll finish up in a second just with some quick fire questions and a quote, but where can people stay in touch with you and your mahi, Jess?
I'm mainly on Instagram, just Jessie Kerr. 2 E's is the Jessie with just 1 E had been taken.
Nice. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jessie01? Do one of those ones?
Yeah, no, just no numbers, just Jessie Kerr, yeah.
Nice. Awesome. And we'll chuck a link into the description below. Jessie, what brings you true happiness?
Definitely my family and the sunshine. Nice.
Advice you wish you knew about when you were younger?
I think just to try everything, and yeah, I took running very seriously, and I don't regret that, but also get involved in as many things as possible when you're young, and yeah, there's no point feeling too much pressure when you're a young kid. Just enjoy and do everything and enjoy it.
So true. What does legacy mean to you?
Oh, it's a tough one. I would say, and again, this comes from my parents and grandparents, but probably just number one, being a good person. If I can be a good person and make people feel valued and special, then I'm doing something right.
If you could change one thing in New Zealand, what would this be?
Oh, selfishly, probably talking about the sensors. I would,
nice.
With diabetes, I'd love those to be funded, and also just for kids under 18 too, for parents who are sort of being the type 1 diabetic for their kids. I think that would be amazing for that to be funded, because so many people can't afford that, and I'm sure there's many other health conditions too that people are paying for.
Are they expensive, the monitors?
Yeah, they're about $150 for a couple of weeks. So
for a couple of weeks?
Yeah. And obviously type 1's hereditary too, so if you've got a couple diabetics in the family, it certainly adds up.
Yeah,
but
true.
It definitely makes your diabetes better. It's a lifesaver. So yeah, that's a little selfish one, but again, it's for the health of,
for the better good.
Yeah.
What do you believe is the main thing that's holding back young people in New Zealand?
Again, it's probably what we talked about with like the confidence of, almost tall poppy syndrome. People
100%.
bringing you down, but then also you shut people down for being arrogant, but also you want to teach people to be confident and express themselves and do what they enjoy and their talents. So yeah,
it's such a massive theme across the podcast and everyone's sort of experience today, like people who drag others down because of what they want to succeed. And wouldn't it be good if there was a world where no one was called to try hard?
yeah, exactly.
Cool. This is a quote from Maya Angelou. Also, don't know who this individual is, but it's a good quote. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Cheers, Jessie. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Noah.